put it
You
on.
have a YouTube account. I don't know if I have a YouTube account. I got to check with
Okay.
Goldie.
All right. We're on recording now. So everyone,
Yes.
welcome. This week is Shabbos Nachamu and Shabbos Veschanan, the Shabbos after Tisha B'Av, and we have a very unique opportunity this year with Tisha B'Av being early that we're able to have the Tu B'Av, a tremendous holiday that falls out on this Shabbos, and Tisha B'Av in the same week, meaning that Tisha B'Av is on Sunday, and Tu B'Av is on Shabbos, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yes.
today's Yud Gimel, tomorrow's Yud Dalet, so today's Shabbos as well, which means, like I heard said by a very special Yid, Rav Shlomo Carlebach used to say, that if you have Tisha B'Av to Tu B'Av without a Shabbos in between, is an amazing thing, because we know, as we learned many times, Shabbos closes up a week. So to say, Shabbos, when you have a Shabbos, so the Shabbos is a completion, Vaychulu, right? Vaychulu means, what do we say on Friday night when we say the Kiddush? Vaychulu is also like it's finished, the week is finished. And like it says, Vaychal Elokim, Chassidus explains all the limitations that came down into nature, which is in the name of God, which is Elokim, have been so Vaychal have finished. And now it's time to elevate the entire week upward. So if you have a week where you have, say, Tisha B'Av in 1 week, in 1 day of the week, and then you have a Shabbos, and after that comes Tu B'Av, so there's two different energies. There's the energy of the first week, which is the week of Tisha B'Av, which is the Shabbos. Before that is the Shabbos of Devarim, and then you have Eschanan, and then you have Tu B'Av. So there's the kind of 1 week is a sad week, and 1 week is a joyful week. And by having it all in 1 week means that you have to be able to experience the whatever it is that Tisha B'Av is, the destruction of the temple or the destruction of our inner temple, the gullus, our inner gullus, and to reach to the level of Tu B'Av. And I'll say in a second what is the holiday of Tu B'Av within 1 week. So in 1 week we're able to transform ourselves from destruction, gullus, to geula, redemption, and Eretz Yisrael, and building the Beis Hamikdash. And so we have tremendous opportunity now. What happened on Tu B'Av? What's this great celebration of the 15th of Av? So first of all, we know that the 15th of any month is a special idea. The 15th, the Jewish people are compared to the moon, and just like the moon becomes larger and smaller with time, and the moon itself doesn't have its own light; it's all a reflection of the sun. And because of the movements of the sun and the moon on a consistent basis, so the light changes with that movement, and it reaches what we call a new moon, what we call the new moon, or like we call Kiddush HaChodesh, when we sanctify the new month, is because the moon has a period that disappears. It actually doesn't emanate any light at all. It's a short period of time. It's very hard to catch. And then comes the new moon. And that's why the courts in Eretz Yisrael, in the times of the court system, which lasted well after the times of the destruction of the temple, when they had the Sanhedrin, they would sanctify the new month based on witnesses and testimony to be able to see exactly when was that new moon, when did the moon disappear and then reappear, and then therefore based on that we could sanctify the new month, the Kiddush HaChodesh. Today we have a calendar because the Sanhedrin no longer functions in that ability, and therefore they say there was a period of times afterwards, after the institution of the calendar, whether it is in the Bezdin of the Rif, where they had certain times where they did again use testimony to sanctify the moon, but it was still based on calculations. And even in the times of the temple and the Mishnah, the Rabbi Shmuel, they knew the technical times there should be a new moon, and if they felt that the witnesses were totally off, they would kind of what we would call wholly in a spiritual way manipulate the testimony in such a way that the moon should fall out at the right time. But the idea is that the Jewish people are compared to the moon, where we have times where it seems like we're almost about to disappear. There's no hope. It's about to just all go dark, and there's no future for the Jewish people. Everyone's there's doomdays, prophets from different walks of life that are prophesizing this destruction and that destruction. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. This is so horrible. That's so horrible, right? There's plenty of people that are looking to give over. Hello, Dr. Hengen, living to give over negative information. So with that said, you think everything's about to go dark, and then starts the new moon. The moon starts to shine again, and when the moon shines again, after everyone's called it a day, starts a new beginning. And that new beginning builds with strength. The first day is a small amount of light. The second day is more light. Third day, till the 15th of the month, we have the full moon. And in our history, the Jewish people have gone through times like that. We've had times in our history, like we all know, that were very, very good times. The times of King Solomon, they say that there's 15 generations, the 15 days of the month where the moon grows, represent 15 generations. The 14th generation, like, when you go outside at night, the 14th of the month, you see how the moon is looking to expand. The moon is looking to become larger. It has like that little few inches at the end. You almost see the light. It's like a little bit of a dimness at the end of the moon. It doesn't have that full circle, but you see this hope, this future to get that completion. It's almost you don't want to reach there because then it starts to descend to smaller. And if you don't mind, Jim, I'm just going to put you on mute.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem. So we have the 14th is the kingdom of David. David is the generation of the 14th of our history. And the 15th, the full moon, is Kayasir B'Ashlemusa, when the Sira, the moon, is at its completeness. That is in the times of David. Like David HaMelech, Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, he builds the temple, the first temple, and there's the glory. The Jewish people lived in a way where there was no more wars. I mean, the difference between the 14th generation, like I said, there's a drop of light that was lacking, that little darkness. David fought wars, and the wars weren't just battles against our external enemies. He had internal enemies. He struggled himself with certain issues. There was a lot of things. His own family, he had battles with his son Avshalom and other sons that rebelled against him. He had enemies, plenty of enemies that were looking to bring him down, and he had other countries from outside. So King David, although he was victorious, and we see it all in his Tehillim, in his Psalms, how he talks about these experiences, how they affected him and how they affected the Jewish people, and how they grew from these situations. But it was a glory time, but it wasn't complete. And that's why God tells King David, you can't build a temple because you're a person of struggle, a person of battle, a person of war, and a person of blood. Because there was a lot of things that had to be, a lot of the negativity still had to be fought. But King Solomon lived in another era. King Solomon, his name is Shlomo, is the root of the word Shlomo is shalem, is complete. The most shalom is also peace. There was a completeness and a peacefulness. With the completeness of the Jewish people came peace. And like the Rebbe always says, and brought down in Chassidus, that the idea of King Solomon was that with building the temple, the light, the ore that went out from the temple was so powerful that it attracted that all the sparks that wanted to unite to the great light came to Solomon, and therefore the whole world came to Jerusalem to see the temple, to learn from Shlomo, to see the godliness, to see the revelations. It's not the miracles. It wasn't a tourist spot where people came because there's fascinating things. It was literally a place where the souls of every living being, whether it be humans, vegetation, animals, angels, birds, everything was connected to Shlomo Melech. Everything felt their purpose, their place, their rightful place in the world. The Chassidus tells us that it's brought down, but the Chassidus explains to us that when it tells us that the Queen of Sheba came from Africa, loaded with gifts and camels, but it wasn't that she was just bringing gold and silver to King Solomon and to the temple and to Jerusalem, but she was bringing with her all the sparks that were lost in the darkness of Africa, in certain places that were practicing idol worship and other things. That she came and she released all those sparks and gave it to Shlomo Melech. So the 15th of the month, which is the idea of number 15, that's where there's 15 steps in the temple, is this completion, the 15 Shir Hamalas, which there's 15, the idea of Shir Hamalas that we say from chapter 120 to 1 through 120 through 135 is the 15 Shir Hamalis. Malis means a song of elevation. These are the elevations corresponding to the steps, elevating 15 levels to completion. So when we have the 15th of every month, it's a great day of the month, because that's the completion of that month. And therefore we find that certain important holidays, specifically fall out on the 15th. For instance, Pesach. Pesach is the 15th of the month, and Sukkot is the 15th of the month. These are days that are able to celebrate on a 15. Not every holiday is 15. Of course, we have the Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah is on the beginning. Yom Kippur is on the 10th. We have Hanukkah at the end. We have Yud Kislev towards the end. But the holidays that celebrate this idea of completion, of fullness, whether it be the idea of Simcha, the idea of freedom, which is Pesach, Simcha, which is Sukkot, so that is specifically celebrated on the 15th of the month. So therefore, the 15th of every month is important. Now, what's important about the 15th of the month of Av is that the 15th of the month of Av is connected to the completion of what the month of Av represents. And like we spoke many times, the month Av is not just called Av, which means father. It's called Menachem Av. Menachem from the word nechama, to give consolation. And it's a consolation to Hashem, the nechama of our rebirth after the destruction of the temple. So specifically in a month that starts off with 9 days of reflection, 9 days of mimatim b'simcha, we have negative things that we have to experience. And we have to we could look at it in the technical wording, meaning to say we're supposed to be less joyous, which is why we don't eat meat or drink wine or listen to music or buy new clothing, and other things we do not do in the 9 days in connection to the morning of the upcoming destruction of the temple. Or if you want to learn about that, we have negative things that we specifically need simcha. Again, not by eating meat or wine, but just building pure, solid, human joy, not needing any fuel, whether it's meat or wine or a simcha, but or an occasion like a wedding, but you could actually find simcha within yourself. That's a way to deal with the negative things, the ma'atim, the things that are lessened in the month of Av. But anyway, you look at it, there's a negativity in the beginning of Av, of a time of reflection of what happened in the temple and why did it happen and what was our participation in the temple being destroyed. So when you have a month like that, where we're forced to face the challenges that we're going through, we're forced to face the negativity and the questions. So with the 15, a completion of that, not that there's a completion of negativity, but a completion of the healing from this destruction and this experience of the 9 days and the temple being destroyed, is such a level of healing that there's a tremendous joy on the 15th of the month of Menachem Av versus the 15th of any other month. And because of that, that was a time when then there was other events that happened that were very joyous in our history, whether it was after the battle of Bar Kokhba and then the Dor Hashma, the generation that came afterwards, when the persecution, and it turned into, I was listening to some recordings on around Tisha B'Av, that up until that point, really, there was, though we've experienced it with the Greeks, where they were after the Torah, Lashkichem Torah Secha, but when the Romans instituted rules and laws that were to attack Torah mitzvahs, that started under Rome in the Dor Hashmad after Bar Kokhba. The Romans felt that our connection to Torah mitzvahs was why we weren't ready to be subservient to Rome, and why we demanded that the temple be rebuilt, and why we demanded our freedom. They understood that it wasn't just that the Jewish people were a proud people, but the Jewish people were a godly people. And therefore they felt that the Romans felt that in order to crush the Jewish spirit and the Jewish pride is through crushing the Jewish connection to Torah and God. And therefore they issued decrees, whether it was on Bris Milah, other things that they decreed. So we have the uprising of Bar Kokhba. We had we also celebrate this in the time of Lag BaOmer, where the Jews hid in the caves. So after all that destruction, on the 15th of the month of Av, they allowed the Jewish people to bury their dead in the desert, when there was the decree that everyone the generation that left Egypt above the age of 20 men were going to die and not going to enter the land. They stopped dying on the 15th of Av. And there's other joyous occasions that are connected to the month of Av, whether it is other specific holidays. Because of that, it became a holiday of love, a holiday of marriage, of building, right? What is the destruction of the temple? Destruction of the temple is the destruction of life, destruction of our purpose here. So how do we turn Tisha B'Av around? Is we celebrate on the 15th of Av building. And how do we start building? With the first mitzvah of the Torah. Peru Revu, get married. Find your soulmate and your better half. So how do we do that? So it's the 15th of Av, they would gather together, the men and women would gather together and they'd meet up. It was a time to join, singles parties and to find your soulmate. And the Gemara goes into the Mishnah, tells us in Tainus all the happenings of Tu B'Av, of what the boys said and what the girls said, all these things. We have Beis Shammai, the house of Shammai, the house of Hillel. Of course, there's never one opinion, but that's who we are. That's what we celebrate. So the 15th of Av is the 15th of Av is a celebration of healing, a celebration of completion, a celebration of a turnaround, a total 180 from destruction, to start rebuilding things within our lives. And those who are not ready, or for whatever reason, this Tu B'Av is not a time maybe to find your shidduch, but there's other healings and buildings you have. Tu B'Av is a holiday for everyone. It's not just a holiday for shidduchim. So it's a holiday where people are building and starting to turn things around. So when you have the month of Tu B'Av, the holiday of Tu B'Av, and you have Tisha B'Av in the same week, means that you don't have to complete a week. Like we said, Shabbos is a completion, Vayichulu, in order to go from the destruction and the down and the negativity of Tisha B'Av to get into the building to the 15th of the month. In the same week, without even a Shabbos in between, right? As soon as Friday night comes in, that's part of the week. It's a continuation. Although Shabbos already is connected a little bit to the next week, the only other way for there to be a more, so to say, really 1 week Tisha B'Av is if Tisha B'Av actually falls out on Shabbos. The 9th of Av falls out on Shabbos, and then we would fast on Sunday like this year, but the 15th of Av would fall out on Friday. But nevertheless, it's still considered the same week. It's the same week because it's from Sunday to Shabbos. It's the same week. So, because Shabbos is also completion of the week before. So it's a very joyous occasion this week, and we also have Shabbos Nachamu, which is not related specifically on face value with the month of with the 15th of Av. Shabbos Nachamu is the first Shabbos after Tisha B'Av, where the Haftorah is that God says Nachamu Nachamu Ami, 2 times consolation, not just 1 time Nachamu. 2 times, Nachmu, Nachmu, whether it's because God is consoling us in the first temple and the second temple, both destroyed on Tisha B'Av. Or there's double levels. We know that in Chassidus we say, Minamakim Karasich Hashem. Minamakim Karasich Hashem, that a person calls out Hashem from their inner depth. There's Omek and Omek betoch Omek. There's depth and there's the depth within the depth. And when we call out to Hashem, we say Mimamakim Karasicha Hashem. We're saying Mimamakim from our innermost inner depth. Of our inner depth, we call out to Hashem. So Nachmu Amli isn't just Nachmu for one thing and Nachmu for another thing. We're asking God to console us for this thing that happened. And we're asking Hashem to console us for that thing that happened. Nachmu, there's a Nachama within the Nachama. It's 3-dimensional. It goes deep in that there's within the consolation. You could have consolation that is a completion of the negative, right? So you have something negative. What's a nichum avelim? What does it mean to console someone? So you have a loss. Someone passed away, and a loved one passed away. So friends and family come to sit with that person, and to bring that he or she a nechama, consolation for the negative. So the nechama is kind of a summary, a completion of the negative. But the nechama within the nechama means that there's a nechama. But because the first nechama is a completion of a negative, so it still has some sort of hold onto negativity. Because like the Rebbe used to say, when you say someone needs a salvation, like we say, the Yeshua, the nechama, v'neimer amin. What do we say on the blessing of the new month? We say the Yeshua ulenacham v'nomaram, and we say we have to say Amen. The Rebbe says, why do you have to say we have to say Amen? Just say Amen like the other times, because Yeshua by definition means a salvation. A salvation from what? A nechama from what? There's a negative experience that you need to have a salvation from. So the very fact that there's a negative situation, it's not easy to say amen, because you're saying, why did I need the sting? You know, I don't want your sting, I don't want your honey. Why did I need this sting that I have to have a sting? And from there is going to come a nechama. So it's not such a nechama. But then you have a nechama from that nechama. That means that it's not just that you're able to find the positive mamish, not just that there's a completion of the negative, but you're able to actually find the positive from the positive that was in the negative. That the whole experience, you're able to see it from a place of positive. You're able to see it from a place of growth. Like we learned about Elam Aseh B'nai Yisrael, that the travels of Jewish people, that there's sometimes you travel backwards, but the traveling backwards, you're traveling. You're moving, you're going somewhere, you're growing. So therefore you're able to find the growth, the positive. I'm not saying that anyone chas v'shalom should experience negative things, but you're able to reach a place already of healing, that you have a nechama of the nechama. You have a consolation of the consolation itself. So this is a tremendous week. I mean, that we could reach Nachman U'achmu, that by the time it comes Shabbos, it's not even a Shabbos after Tisha B'Av. It means not even 7 days. We're within 7 days of Tisha B'Av. We're able to say Nachmu Nachmu. Then not only do we have a Nechama, Baruch Hashem, Tisha B'Av's over. Baruch Hashem, the Eibusher is going to tell us it's going to be a Binyan Beis HaMikdash. But we're able to find Nachmu Nachmu. We're able to have a little bit of an understanding and have Nechama from the Nechama. So it's an amazing, that itself is a holiday, separate from Tu B'Av. And when it's together on Tu B'Av, so it's an actual date shows this completion. And then we have this week's Veschanan. And Veschanan is a Parsha that is full of amazing ideas. Besides, we have Moshe talks very raw to the Jewish people. He talks about his own desires, his desire to go into Eretz Yisrael. His praying to Hashem to go to Eretz Yisrael. Veschanan is one of the languages of Tefillah, and it's brought down. It's one of the highest levels of Tefillah. Veschanan is what's called matnas chinam. When a person comes and says to Hashem, "Give me a free gift, unwarranted gift." It's such a high level that you don't even have a conversation where the person says, "You owe me," or "You have to," or "Look how good I am." It's mamish matnas chinam. The Rebbe says this is the tefillah of the Baal Tshuva. When the person makes the decision to change, the person makes the decision to go on the path of return and start something new. You say, I have nothing to ask Hashem. Yavi Ezri, where am I going to have strength to start this path of tshuva, to start this path of return? So we say Veschanan, you pray, God, give me a free gift of strength to be able to start my path of tshuva. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, he davened Veschanan, he davened that level of tefillah, let me into Eretz Yisrael. And God says to him, stop asking. Stop asking. You're not going into Eretz Yisrael. You could see Eretz Yisrael, you're not going to Eretz Yisrael. And the Rebbe says an amazing thing. I heard the Rebbe talk, last talk of the 12th of Tammuz on the year 1991. So the last talk we have in the 12th of Av. 1991, Tafshin Aleph, and next year by 1992, Tafshin Nun Beis, the Rebbe was no longer talking sichas to us, at least in an open way. So the Rebbe says over there that God tells Moshe Rabbeinu, stop asking. But it doesn't mean that Moshe Rabbeinu had to listen to God. The Rebbe says very strong words. It doesn't mean Moshe listened to God. Why? Because we have a law that says that kol masha balabais oimer lasois, you have to always listen to what the owner says. Besides, if the owner says leave, say. If the owner says get out, you don't have to listen. If he says take your shoes off, you walk into a house and it says please do me a favor. And our house policy is to take off the shoes at the door. A person doesn't have a right to say no. I'm your guest and I demand to be able to wear your shoes. If a person says, please don't touch this piece of furniture, or please do that, whatever it is that the person says, it's his or her home. So they have the right to ask you to behave in a certain way or to do certain things. But if you walk into someone's home and he says, leave, say, you don't have to listen. You could be in the house and conform according to the house rules. But say, everything the Baal Bayis says you have to do, but leave not. So God is the Baal Bayis. God is the owner of the world. And when he tells Moshe, say, leave. So Moshe says, no, I don't want to, I want to go to Eretz Yisrael. Hashem says we don't know for sure. The Rebbe says we don't know for sure if Moshe had listened in this case. And what does it mean? Even if it's amazing words the Rebbe speaks then. The Rebbe says even if God's saying, but what do you mean? The world has times, and it's your time is up. It's time for someone else to take over. It's Yeshua's time. The longer you remain, then Yeshua's not ready for his time. You're standing on Yeshua's time. So the Rebbe says, no, God could do everything. That God could provide what Moshe needs without taking away the shine and the moment for Yeshua. How is that possible? That's why God's God. He's not us. God could figure out a way that Moshe should be able to go into Eretz Yisrael, be Moshe Rabbeinu, and without taking away the shine from Yehoshua. That's not my, Moshe Rabbeinu could say to God, that's not my problem. Thank God I'm not God. You're God. It's your problem. You have to figure that out. So there's tremendous ideas over here that even if you feel the door slamming on you and says, say, get out. You say, I'm not leaving. I have a right to be, I'm a Ben Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I'm a son of Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. I'm a daughter of Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. I'm not going out. This is Hashem's world. I want to be part of it. I want to be part of building a Dira B'tachtonim. Yes, there's house rules. We have to live by the house rules. But to leave, that I'm not doing. And the Parsha continues, and Moshe Rabbeinu talks about himself, and he talks about the Jewish people. He tells us about Golus. The reading of Tisha B'Av itself is in the Parsha V'eschana. Kisoyled banim v'nei banim. V'nei shantem ba'aretz. There's the prophecy of that we're going to serve idols, and the land is going to kick us out, and destruction. And all those things are told in this week's Parsha. We learn about the city of refuge. City of refuge, it comes after the story of Tisha, after the Moshe telling about the destruction, and that comes from that's the healing process. City of refuge is a safe place for a person to go to find themselves, to rebuild themselves, to be protected from an environment as long as need be, to restructure themselves. And from there we go to the Ten Commandments. 10 Commandments is only twice in the Torah. Parshas Yisro and Parshas V'eschanan. We learn about the 10 Commandments, Shomer v'Zacher. Right? So we learn that we have the fundamentals of Yiddishkeit. And from there we go to something even more profound. We have the Shema Yisrael. One of the holiest prayers that we say biblically twice a day, and we say more than twice a day, but halacha we have to say morning and night. When do you have to start saying the Shema to light up the night? To light up the night, the first half of the evening. Until when could you say the Shema to light up the first half of the evening? So the Mishnah right away starts and says that the power of the Shema. And then we finalize with the laws of intermarriage. We have other parts of the Shema afterwards. So this is a very, very full parsha. It's like, wow, you look at the parsha, everything you read is like standing in a stadium where someone's shouting out these amazing ideas, one after the next. It's not a dull moment in Parshas V'eschanan, and that's not even on a winter's week when we have time to study it quietly. We have Tisha B'Av in the beginning, we have Tu B'Av in the end, we have Shabbos Nachmu, we're getting ready for Chafav. There's so much happening. In the meantime, we have this powerful parsha where these tremendous verses. V'yidaita Hayom v'ashavei salvacha ki Hashem Elokim. We have the idea that God says you have the ability to have das, to have understanding of Hashem, to have riyah, to have vision of God, clarity. You could reach clarity of godliness, and from there we have the ability, the Shema Yisrael, which is that we could reach the levels of Amunah. So we reach das, which is absolutely the opposite of Amunah. Amunah is when you believe in God. But the definition of belief is that you're putting yourself out there. You don't have clarity when you don't. A person, Pinchas is sitting in the shul. If I asked Pinchas, where are you sitting? I see sitting in the sanctuary of the University District Minyan, unless it's just a background picture. But if you're sitting, if the background's real, you're sitting in the synagogue. So if I asked you, are you sitting in the synagogue? You don't have to reply, I think so, or I believe so. You can say, I am, because it's certain that you're sitting there. And if I asked Jeremy if he's sitting in his dining room, Jeremy could say that, yes, I am, I'm sitting there. He doesn't have to say, I believe I'm sitting there. And the Dershowitz says, I don't know, their cameras are off. But see, when if it comes to Matthew, I could say, I believe he's somewhere. I don't know where. I don't see where he's in the background. He's either home or he's in the east.
I'm at home this time.
He's at home this time. So now he says it to me. I can say, I believe him. I don't know for certain because I don't see anything. But that's the difference between seeing something and knowing something and believing in something. And Hashem wants us to have both experiences. It's not that Hashem see, now I know where Hashem is. Hashem is in Shul, and he's also in Shul, in the sanctuary in CSTL. So it's not just about Hashem wants us to experience both things. We have to have V'yadaita. These are verses in this week's Parsha. You have to have certainty in Hashem. And we also have to have belief. Belief is not just that because Hashem exists beyond our understanding. So there's things that we don't know and we have to believe. Hashem wants us to have belief. It's important for a person to be able to believe in something. Amun is to believe in something that you're not certain in. Although you don't see it, you don't have the idea, you don't have the das, you're not connected 100%, you don't have the riyah, the seeing something. Das is connected to vision. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu said, Eber Nava Era. Let me go into the land and I will see it in a way that's going to be, I'm going to be there and I'm going to see it. That's going to give certainty to the Jewish people. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to give certainty to the Jewish people on the highest level. But Hashem wants that there should be a combination of things. Certainty is one thing. Hashem wants us to be able to serve Hashem based on emunah and belief as well. You know, people say, I forget who it was. I think someone today was a big rabbi, once walked into my father and says, prove me that there's God. I want to see it. I'm ready to serve God, but I need to see it. I need to know it. So it's not that the rabbi is lacking the argument to say that you could see it. Hashem doesn't want you to only serve Hashem from certainty. Hashem wants you to serve Him from belief, from emunah. These are ideas that we have in this week's Parsha. So I want to conclude, to get ready for my next year. And I want to say that although we haven't really got into 100% something, a specific topic, but I think that what we can walk away from tonight's chavrusa, tonight's gathering, tonight's vabrengen, tonight's class, that although we're sitting in different parts of the world, most of you guys are in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm here in Eretz Yisrael, but like the Rebbe says, the distance is not a real thing. Our hearts are together. And we have to know that this week's Parsha teaches us, and the Shabbos Nachmu teaches us, and Tu B'Av teaches us that there's the Nachmu Ami, the double Nechama is that we don't have to leave one thing to go to the next. We're able to transform and elevate what started off as Tisha B'Av in this week to Tu B'Av by the end of the week. Which means that our week is so complete that when we look back at the week and we come into Shabbos, and Shabbos is a completion and an elevation of the whole week, in what way are we elevating? We're elevating in a way of the Tu B'Av that falls out on Shabbos Nachamu, and it's mamish. We're able to go in with this highest, the most solid energy, and if simcha. It's the happiest day of the Jewish people's calendar. The two happiest days of the Jewish people, we got slicha. They both are connected of healing and fixing. Was the 15th of Av and Tisha and Yom Kippur, which is the healing, the Yom Hadin. So I want to finish off with the halacha in yesterday's Rambam that says a very interesting Rambam. The Rambam talks about the building of the Beis Hamikdash, and he says that there's certain prophecies in the prophecies of Yecheskel that talks about certain services, pourings, and things that they did in the temple that were one time. They were for the dedication of the temples. And the Rebbe and the Rambam says that these are going to be for the dedications of the temple with the coming of Mashiach, the third Beis Hamikdash. That there's going to be special services that we're going to do, the pourings, the nesachim, that are going to be a way of dedicating the third temple. That's what he talks about in the second to last halach of that parak, and then he finishes off with another halach, and that's amazing. We don't understand why this has to say it, and it says just like the first time when they dedicated the temple, they did dedications on Shabbos. Even though certain things shouldn't be done on Shabbos, but because of the dedication of this temple, certain things were permitted for that day. So too when Mashiach comes, there's going to be specific sacrifices and dedications that are going to be done on Shabbos with the rebuilding of the third Beis Hamikdash, when we dedicate the third Beis Hamikdash. Now, one could understand it in different ways. You could say that because the celebration is always going to be 7 days, So there's always going to be a Shabbos of the celebration. They celebrated 7 days of the Solomon, but it could be a hint that Mir Hashem, and this hint should be the real answer. That Mir Hashem, by Shabbos this year, Mashiach is here. And therefore, of course, we're going to have to do the dedication of the temple on Shabbos because Mashiach is going to come right around now. It's going to be part of Shabbos. So I want to wish everyone that we should have a Geula week and we shouldn't be far in space and we should be close by everyone coming here to Yerushalayim. We should see each other upon him, with the building, the Beis Hamikdash, with the coming of Mashiach. On this Shabbos, we should have all those sacrifices that the Rambam talks about, that were prophesied in Yecheskel, should actualize in the building of the third Beis Hamikdash with the light and the glory and the achdus of the Jewish people and the simcha. L'chaim, l'chaim, everyone.
Amen, amen.
Thank you, Matthew. New quickly. What's the Nachamu? What's happening in Nachamu in University of Mystic?
We're doing a special service at Shul. Everybody should come. I'm not going to say any more, but I'm going to be there.
See, I'm going to tell you. See, what Matthew is listening to the drasha. He doesn't. If he's going to say exactly what's going to be there, then you have das. You're certain. You know what's going to be there, so you're not going to come. Matthew says, "Believe me, trust me. It's going to be good. You don't have to know everything. Just trust me on this one. Come to Shul this weekend and find a lot of pleasant surprises." All right, Mir Hashem,
Nachamu.
Laila Tov, everyone. Good Shabbos. Take care. Good Yom Tov.
Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, Rabbi Mendy.